Welcome to the Roswell Business Podcast. On this episode, we speak with local businessman Marlin Wells as we discuss pieces of his life, his business, and words to live by. Enjoy. Well, Marlin, thank you for joining us on this episode and interrupting your life and things that are going on in your world to spend a little bit of time with us and share with our audience and our viewers details about you and all that and so forth. Just for our audience to know, we do have a re-roofing project happening next door. So if you hear the banging and all that on the podcast today, apologies, but we did not want to miss the opportunity to capture Marlin and reschedule. And on those kind of things, when you reschedule, sometimes those things can't line up again. So we're going to go ahead and move and get going. So Marlin, tell us about you. I know you've been in the Roswell area for many years. So a lot of people actually here know who you are, but those that are not from Roswell and so forth don't know that. And in fact, even the people living here might even pick up a few neat things today about who you are. So let's talk about Marlin, the man, the person. Where do you come from? What makes you tick?
Well, thanks, Donovan. First of all, for inviting me. I'm honored to be here today and share a little bit about. I have had a wonderful, wonderful life for many, many years and still do, and I'm very, very blessed in many areas. I'm a true Roswell native. My wife and I both were born and raised in Roswell. We were born at St. Mary's Hospital, which used to be south of town, where the Chaves County Administration Office is now. As those that live here know that that used to be a hospital out there. We actually were born there. Went to school, all through school. I graduated from Roswell High School. Went to NMMI my first 2 years of college. I graduated from there, played baseball at Roswell High and also at NMMI, and then went on to Point Loma University out in California and got my degree. And then life went on from there. Spent 4 years in the Army and got married and that whole thing. So I've had a good life, but it started out right here in Roswell.
So why? Well, let's talk about that. You started out in Roswell. How long was your family here? What kind of heritage is sitting there?
Well, my mom and dad were here. My father was a milkman for 45 years. He delivered milk to their front door. He used to roll me out at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would go with him. And then my father-in-law was in the real estate business for many years, so our family was here. And then Kathleen and I lived in California for almost 20 years, and we moved back to Roswell because we wanted to raise our boys in a little different atmosphere than Southern California. So that's kind of how we ended up back in Roswell.
So interesting story there. 2 a.m. in order to go out and fulfill milk orders. How did that process work? That's a neat part of history.
Well, my dad would go to work sometime between delivering milk to people's front doors between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was usually through delivering by 8 or 8:30 or 9 in the morning. So he worked at night delivering milk, and I went with him for many, many years. I worked there were a couple of creameries here, dairies. I worked at those during the summertime, but my father did that, and my mother served breakfasts and lunches at Nancy Lopez School for about 35 years.
Wow.
The kids over there. So there are a lot of kids here that remember my mom, the young people remember my mom from serving lunches. And then, like I said, my in-laws were in the real estate business and the farmers, the Adams family. And so we go back a long ways in history in Roswell.
Wow. And I'm going to stay on that milk thing because that's just such a neat industry, a neat part of our Americana. So you guys, did you bottle it and all that too, or were you just delivery and that?
My dad was just in the retail distribution part of it, but there were Clardy's Dairy and Price's Dairy and then Pollard's Dairy that actually bottled the milk. And then my dad would buy milk from them, load it on his milk truck, and then he was an independent distributor. Then he would deliver their milk. And he delivered milk, cream, butter, eggs, cottage cheese. Used to have milk nickels and fudgesicles and all of that on his milk route with the dry ice, and the kids would come around in the summer and buy fudgesicles and milk nickels from my dad at 5 cents a piece. And so we're talking ancient history here.
Yeah. Oh, that's really fun. A lot of people don't know that Roswell, a big part of this economy comes from agriculture.
Right.
And here, your family heritage is a big part of that. That's neat.
Right.
That's really neat. So you would get up at 2 a.m. and lug around. Were you just there? Was he? What was the purpose of having you involved?
I'd actually helped him deliver milk. He'd had a truck and he would deliver milk. The houses were on the left side. He would drive and I'd be on the right side, and I would just deliver the half gallons of quarts of milk, whatever it was, to the houses. And we'd just go down the street with customers and just deliver milk, put it on people's, they had a box, put it on their front porch. And so I actually did the work with my dad.
Wow.
And I didn't necessarily like it then, but I look back on it, and my father taught me how to work.
Okay.
And his words were, if you're going to work for somebody, you work for them. And I worked for my dad.
Wow.
He made sure that I worked.
What a neat thing. I know a lot of us can point to fathers who were influential like that, and or father figures in our lives, depending on where we came from. So you grew up here. You ended up going to Roswell High School. You said you played baseball. Was that something that you continued into NEMI as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. I started out in Little League when I was 10 years old playing baseball, and I worked up to Little League, to Babe Ruth League, to American Legion and Roswell High. My senior year in high school in 1960, we won the state tournament in baseball in Roswell High. Then I went on to NMMI and played for 2 years there. I had the good fortune of Roger Staubach came here. He did not go to the Naval Academy. When he graduated from high school, I believe in Cincinnati, and he came here and played, spent 1 year's prep school, and he played on the baseball team. So he was a center fielder and I was a pitcher.
Nice.
And so I had the opportunity to play 1 year of baseball and got to know Roger. He's not a personal friend, but I was on the team with Roger. And then I went on out to Point Loma University in San Diego and played baseball, 2 years of baseball out there.
Okay, so you continued there as well. Why Point Loma? What was the attraction?
Well, that's where my wife's, Kathleen's family, a number of them had gone there. That's a church school that's sponsored by the Church of the Nazarene.
Okay.
And her family was raised in the Nazarene Church, as was Kathleen. And they had a good baseball program, and they offered me a nice scholarship to go play ball. So I went out there to play ball and had the good fortune of playing out there for a couple of years. I'd always wanted to be a professional baseball player. I went to a couple of tryout camps after I got out of college, and then Uncle Sam decided it was time for me to be it for a while. So my baseball career kind of got pushed aside. And but I grew up loving baseball. I still like to watch baseball games.
Wow, that's neat. So you said you stayed out in California for about 20 years or so.
Right.
What was happening in those?
Well, when Kathleen and I got married, we'd been married for 2 years. We lived, when we graduated from college, we lived in the Los Angeles area. We were both working. And then my father called me, and I think it was in 1966, and said they had a draft board then, selective service. He said, you're going to be drafted in January. This was 66. He said, your name has come up. And so I did not want to be drafted. So Kathleen and I moved. We closed out everything there. We came back. She came back to Roswell.
Okay.
And I went into the service, and I spent 4 years in the Army. Then after I got out of the Army, we went back to Southern California and stayed another 15 or 16 years. So that was the 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I spent 4 years in the Army. We spent a couple of years in Germany.
Wow.
Our oldest son was born in Germany.
Okay.
And then I spent 1969, I was in Vietnam. Our son was 10 months old when I went to Vietnam.
Okay.
He was 2 when I got back. So I missed out on that year of his life.
Wow.
So, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Well, thank you for the service. I know that can sound like a cliche, but seriously appreciate anyone who has sacrificed like that.
Thanks. It was an honor and a privilege. I look back, I don't think I'd want to do it again, but it was a privilege to do it. I'm glad I had the opportunity.
Nice. And so you come back from a military, from all of that experience and the change of life back here, and then you said you spent 16 years in California.
Right.
What was What were you into? What was happening there? Obviously, you've got 2 children now.
Right.
How was life then?
Well, we lived in Escondido, California, which is North San Diego County, and I worked for a pharmaceutical company for several years. And then I got into the insurance and investment business, and then we moved back to Roswell. I'd been in the business a couple of years, and we came back to Roswell during that period of time. But during that, our younger son Greg was born,
Okay.
and then I was, as they were growing up, little boys, I was helping them. I coached their little league baseball teams and,
Nice.
and all of that. We were very active in the church out in California, and life just kind of things opened up for us to come back to Roswell.
Okay.
So we decided to move back, and it's one of the best decisions we ever made.
Wow. So why do you say best decision ever made? How does that
Roswell's
factor?
a great place to live.
Okay.
It certainly has its issues, but it's a wonderful place to live. It's a great place to raise your kids. Wonderful people here, as there are wonderful people everywhere, but Roswell has been awfully good to me and my family.
And so I know you had been insurance out there. Is that what inspired you to bring that here to Roswell, or did that just kind of happen? Or
It just kind of happened, I think.
Okay.
The door just opened for us to come back. Kathleen's mother and father had both passed away, and we thought we'd like to make a change, and so we came back and bought the house that belonged to her mom and dad from her brothers and sisters,
Okay.
and lived there for about 24 or 25 years. And then the business is just, life has grown from then. Our boys grew up and have gone to college and got their own family and all of that. So, but we've been extremely blessed being here.
Wow, that's neat. And I know, on a personal level, my wife has had the pleasure of working at your then office and now transitioning office, and we'll
Right.
talk a little bit more of that as we come up on the business side.
Right.
But the fact that you've been able to stick with that for this many years is admirable and impressive.
Well, this is my 40th year.
Wow. So you had the privilege of bringing your family back and giving them a similar experience that you had growing up.
Right.
How did that look? Obviously, I know you said that you were able to be a part of their lives in coaching
Right.
and so forth, and I know you're a very spiritual, church-based man, so I'm sure you did a lot
Right.
through the city there. And what other things around, apart from business, had you been involved in?
Well, as our boys grew up, I certainly helped with coach their little league teams. They both played baseball. They both graduated from Roswell High School. And I got involved in the Chamber of Commerce. I
Okay.
served on the Chamber of Commerce board for 10 years, president of the Chamber of Commerce. I was on the Economic Development Council board for 8 or 10 years. I've been in Rotary for probably 35 years. I was on the City Council, and I've been involved in things at NMMI. But I just feel like that where we live, we need to give back. The people that did business with us, everything else that goes on, that we're here to help each other out, and we need to give back. And so that's what I've tried to do through church work, community work, just working with leadership, Roswell, Chamber of Commerce, and all of that. Yeah.
Nice. So you've really not done much with your time then, huh? That's a nice record, a nice involvement too.
We have been blessed. So, but I think that's the reason where each one of us is here. I think God gives us a job to do, a position to fill, a calling to do, and then that's what we are to do, is to do that to the best of our ability.
Now, I know one of the first times that I had the privilege of technically meeting you, you may not remember, but it was at a speaking event where you were doing some leadership teaching. How did you get into that? Tell me about some of the history of that.
It was probably Leadership Roswell.
Okay.
I have a talk that I've given, I think it's 27 or 28 years now. I've been one of the speakers. And I have a talk that I give on goal setting called The Electricity of Goals, and how goals, that's such an important part of my life. As I look back over my life, I think that I can think of 4 areas. One of them is setting goals, hard work, God's blessing, and generosity with our time, our energy, and our money. And I think that's a combination you just can't beat. But anyway, I started Rick Kraft approached me about giving a talk on goal setting at Leadership Roswell a long time ago, and I've been doing it every year. Same talk every year. I use the same outline I've always used, but they keep asking me back, so I keep going back. Goals have been a very important part of my life. They've been a roadmap and a track to run on. That's what's kept me going, and it's been really neat for Kathleen and me to watch our sons and our grandchildren do that process of setting goals and seeing some of the things happen that they work for.
Wow.
So
Love that. We'll revisit that to where I know it's a full talk, and our viewers can obviously, we'll talk at the end of how they can connect with you, and in case they want to bring you in to do that talk. But we might hit the highlights of that when we get towards the end.
Sure.
Because I know that's a big passion of yours. So,
right.
Love your insights. So let's talk a little bit about Marlin the businessman. Obviously, you were in pharmaceuticals and things. What did that look like? What did you do?
I was called a detail man, but it was a sales representative. I worked for a company called Park Davis, which is no longer, they've been gone a long time. They're one of the major pharmaceutical companies. And I called on doctors, hospitals, rest homes, and all that, selling. We detailed, you'd go and talk to a doctor about a product you might have, a new antibiotic, a new pharmaceutical, a new drug, and you give the doctor details. Hopefully they will prescribe your medicine. And we also sold surgical dressings, diapers, disposable, all those kind of things, cotton balls and all that is part of had a whole range of things to sell, but just worked in the medical community. So that was my first job out of college.
So first job, you were having to go do just straight on door-to-door sales, basically.
Had a book of had all the doctors in it, but I didn't know any of them when I started. So I had to go introduce myself and develop a rapport and a relationship with the doctors and the nurses and the staff.
Did you have any prior training in sales, or so you just literally thrown to the wolves and jumped in and got going?
Right. And I'm not naturally an outgoing person. I'm basically a pretty reserved, shy person, and it was first few years it was tough for me to do that, to transition. I had to work very hard, and my wife, I credit her with it because she encouraged me. She said, "Marlin, you can do this. Stay with it. You can do it. You've got what it takes." And so I believed her and stayed with it.
So what kind of insights did you learn during those trial by fire moments?
I think probably some of the earliest things I started learning is if you tell people you're going to do something, such as I'll be in your office at 9:00 tomorrow morning, or I'm going to return your phone call, or I will do this, it's important to follow up and do it.
Wow.
So many people, I think today, especially I see, is they're always going to do something, but it's easy to let that go. And I think it's extremely important if you tell somebody you're going to do something, do it. If you can't, let them know. And then once you do it, I think it's important to say thank you. I heard a gentleman speak many, many years ago, and he said 3 of the most important words in the English language are please, thank you, and I'm sorry. And I've never forgotten that.
Wow.
But people I learned that just if you say you're going to do something, make a commitment to people, do it. Yeah.
And so you found by just that one simple principle that opened a lot of doors for you.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And being honest with people.
Okay.
Just people are looking for help. I think especially in finances, which we'll get to. People are looking for someone to tell them, how should I go about this? And they want some solid, honest advice that's not for them, but it's not for me as the broker or whatever, but it's for them with their goals. You're trying to help them meet their goals and their family's goals. I think that's so important.
Wow, that's good. So the pharmaceutical thing, was it just something that you just lost vision for, or was it just a really solid opportunity to switch to the financial world, or how did all that shift? Because I know you said you spent about a decade and a half or so.
There were a couple other things that I did in addition to the pharmaceutical sales, but I had always been interested in insurance and investments. When I was a boy growing up, there was a gentleman who was with American National Insurance Company. He had a debit, and he would come around to my house and collect from my mom and dad premiums for life insurance.
Okay.
And he always asked me how I was doing. He always talked to me. He asked me about baseball and all that. He was interested in me. A lot of people don't have any interest in kids at all. They get ignored. He always took an interest in me. And I remember thinking as a boy, I think I'd like to do that someday.
Wow.
I'd like to have an interest in people. So I'll never forgotten that. His name was Bob Adams. He's been gone for many, many years, but he really made an impact upon me about just caring about a boy who was growing up that he would see every Friday.
So it wasn't even really about the interest in financial things. It was because someone else impacted you.
Right.
That's amazing.
Right.
Wow. There's crazy power in that. Talk about that for a minute. Why do you think that is such a huge influence over us?
Well, I think it can be a person like that. It can be a school teacher. I had a school teacher when I was in the 2nd grade, and I remember Mrs. Marsh saying, "Marlin, you're a special boy. You're going to do something with your life." I'd never heard anything like that.
Wow.
At all. And that was a long, long time ago, and I still remember that. I think we all need a word of encouragement from time to time. We all need a kick in the bottom sometimes to get us going.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like a few words of encouragement, either verbally or a note or a phone call or whatever, just to let somebody know, hey, I'm thinking about you. How's it going?
Wow.
So it's always been special to me.
So being inspired like that, you make the transition into the financial world. Was that a shocking event? Since it was just, I was interested because of someone else, not necessarily because of the industry? Or was it something that just fit like hand in glove? Or, how did that transition go?
It was a tough change for me because people have an adversity to salespeople at times, and sometimes I think insurance agents and car salesmen, people said, this guy's going to try to sell me something I don't need,
Right.
and I don't want, and I cannot afford. So there was a certain amount that you have to overcome. But I think I was able to do that by building trust, getting to know people, letting them know that I cared, that hopefully I was going to be able to do what was best for them. But that took a long time. And like I said, my wife really encouraged me in that, to stay with it. I probably would have gotten out of the business because it was a tough time.
Wow.
Just calling on people, making appointments and all of that. But as I look back on it, it's been a wonderful life.
And of course, when you started in this was pre-digital everything.
Right.
And in fact, it was, if I'm doing my math right, it was during the phase where even getting on TV was pretty difficult.
Yes.
So how did you go about, I know you said just calling, but how did you get in front of people?
Direct mail.
Okay.
I sent out 100 letters a week.
Wow.
I subscribed to a real estate paper on people who had bought mortgages, who had bought homes, had mortgages, and it listed their name and address and what their mortgage was. And I would send out 100 of those a week, advertising, return this card for a free travel atlas.
Okay.
Most of the people, once in a while somebody was interested in a policy or some insurance or whatever, but most people just wanted the travel atlas.
Right.
So I gave away a ton of travel atlases.
Nice.
And I made a few sales along the way, and I kept at it, and finally I got to the point where I was getting referrals of people I was doing
Okay.
business with. They would refer me to their neighbors and friends. And then I started developing a reputation, and I got more involved in the community, and I got more and more known, and it started to mushroom.
Yeah.
And it just has built and built and built. But it's taken a long time and a lot of hard work.
Yeah. That is an interesting point about business and so forth. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll pick back up on that point.
Great.
Now a word from this episode's sponsor. Reliability is one of the most important elements when selecting a service company. Fulkerson Plumbing and Air Conditioning has over 50 years' experience serving Roswell and southeastern New Mexico with a consistent focus on complete customer satisfaction. From a residential leaky faucet to a commercial air conditioning system, we provide 24-hour emergency service, upfront pricing, highly skilled and trained technicians with fast and courteous service. Call the Fulkerson team at our main office in Roswell at 575-622-1600 or visit fulkerson-services.com to schedule an appointment. Fulkerson Plumbing and Air Conditioning. Large enough to be there when you need us, small enough to take your call. So let's pick back up on where we left off with the financial things, and as that was transitioning. You said that in that early phase, there was a do or die time where literally you were like, well, this just may not be for me. And it was the support of your life and marriage partner, Kathleen, that kind of helped build that through. Talk about that. What was the hurdle and what was the turning point?
Well, as I mentioned, Kathleen and then I went to a goal setting seminar that lasted all day. That the gentleman, couple things that I remember about the goal setting seminar is he said, stop blaming the government, stop blaming your environment, stop blaming people for where you are today, and take responsibility and be accountable for yourself. And he said, for things to change, you have to change.
Wow.
And he said, you have to do it. And he said, you make a commitment that I am not living like this anymore. And I made that commitment, and it didn't happen overnight, but things started changing because I started setting goals, spiritual, family, financial, physical, about 8 different areas. I started setting goals and working on those, started seeing some things happen, and that was a life-changing experience for me. I started setting them at NMMI, but I didn't refine it. But this goal-setting seminar literally pulled a chain on my light bulb that I need to make a change, and I did, and it was a life-changing experience.
Wow. And so fast forward to these days now, at your age and experience level, how are you still implementing that?
I still have those same areas that I keep goals in. I set goals for every year. In December I start, and I usually work on them for about 3 or 4 weeks, but I have spiritual goals, family goals, financial goals. I have my notebook here that I have those broken down, that I've been doing that for many, many, many years. And I make commitments in those goals, and I do my best to work on them and live up to that.
How would you say that impacts even just the everyday, not just business?
It's a track to run on.
Okay.
We have so much information now, especially now that we've got information we're bombarded with. It's so easy to get sidetracked. Still, at this point in my life, I can get sidetracked. But those goals are my roadmap, and this is what my ultimate goal is, and I'm going to get sidetracked. But this is where I'm headed. You know, as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, this is where I'm headed now in my position and where I am in the business, which is I'm really almost out of it. But this is where I am in the community. This is where I want to be. So that helps me stay on track because I'm not a super organized person.
Okay.
And so I have to keep a notebook and keep track of things. So that's how it's helped me.
That speaks volumes, because I know that there are other people like yourself that don't naturally have organization design in their personality and how they're made up. So you said you carry a notebook that keeps all that together.
Right.
Is that your preferred and suggested method for most people?
I wouldn't say for most people, but it's worked for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it has worked for me, and I keep track of those things. I have a partner, associate, Kenny Ragdale, has been with me for, I guess, 11 years now. He's super organized. He's Mr. Organization.
Okay.
I am Mr. Relationships. That's my strength, is relationships and one-on-one with people.
Yeah.
And so what my challenge in life has been to take the relationships and combine it with the organization, so you can get some things done.
So I noticed what you said there. I like that you take what you are good at, but combine it with what you aren't, whether it be through systems or other people.
Right.
If I'm hearing you right.
Right.
Love that. That's neat. So fast forward to the later years in the financial business. You stayed with it. Yeah, you didn't give up, didn't quit. Had some rough times, had some moments of misgiving and not sure where it would go, but stuck it out. And how did that play out?
Well, as I look back on it, it's played out wonderfully because I have had an amazing business of the number of, I look back of the people I've been able to do business with, become friends with, get involved with their family, their planning, helping them set aside money for their kids to go to college. I've had a number of people over the years, a good number of people who passed away or family members passed away, that I've been able to help them process their life insurance so the family can keep on keeping on. So that's been very rewarding in helping people plan for their retirement. That's one of our specialties in the offices, is helping people retire and helping people, once they accumulate all this money for retirement, how do I take it out? What do I do with it?
Yeah.
A lot of people have questions about that. And so that has been a great thing. But I've had a lot of people that have put their trust and faith in our advice. And as I look back, Donovan, I think one of the things that I think people want to know how much I care more than they want to know how much I know.
Okay.
It's really easy to dump knowledge on people, but it's something else to really let people know, hey, I care about you and your family and your planning. And that takes a while to build that trust.
Wow.
And that relationship. But that's what has been my goal forever, is to build the trust. And I try to be the same person wherever I am. I don't want to be Marlin at the office, Marlin at church, Marlin at chamber. I just want to be Marlin.
Wow.
And that's been my goal, is I just want to be one person. And I don't mean that in type of ego sense at all. That's my goal in life, is I want to be real.
Well, that's not only admirable, but appreciated,
Yeah.
especially in a day and age of a lot of fake statuses because of our digital age.
Right.
So appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
I feel like most of us struggle with that. So
Sure.
it's good to hear somebody that's winning at it.
Oh.
So let's talk about financial business and so forth. You've obviously had several decades of knowledge and learning and so forth. What are some basics that you can say that is important to know about financial planning?
It has always been important, but in today's time, I think it's extremely important. As I look back over the years, I've helped so many people set up budgets. A lot of people have all of their numbers and their bills and things running through their mind, but they don't ever put it down in a book or in their computer, whatever, QuickBooks, whatever they use. Keep track of their monthly income and compare it with their monthly outgo.
Yeah.
Most people have no idea where their extra money goes. They just spend it. So to set up a budget is extremely important. And I think it's really important now, and will be more important in the future, to get out of debt.
Okay.
People are going to be able to have mortgages on their home and probably cars, but I think I really encourage people to get those charge cards paid off and don't use them. I'm not a doomsday person, but I think we have some rough days ahead financially.
Okay.
In our nation and in the world. And I think it's going to be very important to not have a whole bunch of charge cards and debt installment notes hanging over your head. That's my own feeling. I'm not a prophet, but I just feel like that's so important today. It always has been, but I think it really is now. Our economy is just amazing what's going on. It's remarkable. Stock market is all-time highs. Inflation is building. Interest rates are low. Supply and demand, it's remarkable what's going on now. And I'm not an expert on it anyway, but I think it's going to be really important to be out of debt.
Why would you say that?
I just think things are going to change, so that we just need to be out of debt. The debt is an obligation, and I think we need to get out from under those obligations that we have, where that somebody else actually controls us.
Okay.
The people that we owe, they've got control over that, whatever that might be.
Right. Okay. Good words. Good insight there. So you're actually in a unique season of life where you mentioned it before, that there is a looming transition between full-time, part-time, and possibly anything that you want to do.
Right.
You're at that season of life, which is all of our goal. Most of us in our life, hope to get to live long enough that we can go into a season where we can actually be in a little bit more control of those decisions. How does that look?
Well, I think it looks great. I read some time back that we need to be thankful for old age. Many people are not given the privilege of going there.
Wow.
People die young, whatever else. And so I'm really trying, as the years go by, my senior years, quote, I'm really trying to be thankful that I've been allowed to live another day and hopefully make an impact on my little world, the people I go in contact with on a daily basis.
Okay.
So that's the way I view it. I've got some little things that I keep dabbling in the business, but I'm very involved in a prayer group that I meet with 2 or 3 times a week. I go to a Bible study every week,
Okay.
involved in my church. And in some other things, I'm involved with the ESGR Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, and I'm still in Rotary. So I've got some still things going on, but I'm trying to keep a balance now and spending time with kids and grandkids and doing some traveling.
So it sounds like you're enjoying that extra freedom.
It's great. It's wonderful.
Good.
And I'll repeat again, I think it goes back to goal setting, hard work, God's blessings, and generosity. That's what I look back on my life, those 4 things.
Yeah. So let's explore for a minute here, because you've got a lot of wisdom. We've talked about some of that, but especially because you have a full teaching that you do. Give us some highlights of what that looks like and what can our viewers take away from that, your insights that you've learned.
Well, Bob Donnell and I started a Bible study group. July will be 13 years ago with the 2 of us. And we now we've got 35 men involved in it that are from 7 different churches. We meet every Thursday morning at Cerritos for breakfast. And right now we're studying 2 Samuel. This morning we just studied about David and Bathsheba.
Okay.
A fascinating lesson. And so I think what that has done for me is I'm the leader of the group, quote, leader, and I have to study every week to prepare, because if these guys are going to make the commitment to come to a Bible study at 7 o'clock in the morning, they want to come for a reason.
Yeah,
and I try to be prepared. Same on the little talks I give at the service club or leadership Roswell, whatever. I want to be able to add something, hopefully that maybe 1 or 2 people might be impacted. Everybody won't, but if there's 1 or 2 people that I can make a difference in their lives, then I consider that wonderful and a blessing.
So you said that you have your 4 points that you usually teach.
Right.
Give us some basics of that.
Well, as I look back, those 4 points are really pretty. That's kind of not so necessarily so much teaching. That's kind of where my life is.
Okay.
So, but if I had any points for teaching, I would say just, and especially Bible study, it's just preparation.
Okay.
Just not that I'm a walking encyclopedia, I'm not a Bible scholar, but just preparation. And whatever we need to do, we need to prepare. If we're going to meet with someone, like this meeting today, I've given some thought. Okay, what kind of questions may Donovan ask me? What do I want to say? What can I add to this? So I've tried to prepare for that as best I could. And so I think that's what we need to do. We're here to help each other out. I firmly believe, and that's kind of my life philosophy.
So you say all interaction really begins with preparation then?
I think a great deal of it does, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And in leadership, I read many years ago, leadership is influence. If you're going to be a leader, you're going to influence people, good or bad, whatever it is. And so that's what I want to do, is be a positive influence as much as I can. Not and that's not an ego trip. I don't mean that in any way of bragging. Sure. I just want to make an impact that will hopefully be of encouragement to somebody.
That's wonderful. And I think a lot of us that are interested in leadership or business positions or ownership or whatever that might be, that's really what, if we boil it down, is really what our goals are, is we want to have proper influence.
Right.
So I like what you're saying. That helps put it in perspective. What's another point on your teaching?
I think just caring. I'm a very caring person. In fact, my wife has always told me that I care too much. But I think just caring about people and caring about the impact, caring about where they are in life, and hopefully maybe you can say something that will be an encouragement to them at that time.
Okay. So I've heard another word used, which is empathy.
Yes. Good.
Is that what you're
Great. Yes.
referencing?
Right.
Okay. How do you, because you've had a lot of practice at it, because I hear the question come from sometimes when there's discussions on empathy, how do you know where the limit is? Because then you've got those that are actually abusing your empathetic heart and caring spirit. How do you know how to draw those lines?
That's a tough question, because it's some people will you could just go on and on and on with people. Somewhere that there has to be a place where you draw the line, and that's a tough decision to make on how far do I go, how much more do I get involved in this, and so that I don't have an easy answer for that.
Okay.
I just try to sense it and kind of see where I am with the person or the situation, whatever it might be. But that's a difficult decision to make.
Right. Yeah. Because is it something that you, if I'm hearing you correctly, that you take case by case basis, but once you start to sense a life sucker, it's time to be done?
To a certain extent, yes. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and some people can be a life sucker. I call them joy stealers.
Okay.
I mean, some people could just take the joy right out of you.
Right.
For whatever reason. And I don't mean that in any kind of a critical sense at all, but some people really can just, they've got so much negative stuff going on, and it just, anyway, I call them joy stealers.
So do you think, because I've heard it said that sometimes the best gift you can give someone like that is to walk away?
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's a good thought. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll think about that. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I just love hearing other people's perspectives, and I had heard that recently, and I was like, interesting.
That's good. Yeah.
Maybe the best thing you can do is stop enabling their processes.
Right.
Okay. So we've covered several territories. What else is part of your basic teaching that you give people on goal setting?
The goals need to be yours. They're not someone else's goals.
Wow.
What do you and your family want to accomplish?
Okay.
Not your managers, not your bosses, whatever else. What's important to you and your family, in your spiritual life, in your financial life, in your whatever it might be, your relationships, your personal growth, whatever. What's important to you, your spouse, your husband, your wife, children, grandchildren.
Yeah.
And then set those goals. Make sure those goals are real, they're realistic, and they're not way so high that you'll never reach them. Be realistic on the goals that you set.
Okay. So would you say, how do people deal with the unrealistic ones that you do have out there? Do you call those dreams instead of goals, or how do you classify that?
Well, I read several years ago that a dream is really a goal without a deadline.
Okay.
And so I think there's some truth to that. When I say a realistic goal, somebody is going to set a financial goal, and if they're making $50,000 this year and they set a goal that next year I'm going to make $1 million, that's probably unrealistic. Could be possible, it could happen, but maybe if somebody's going to say, well, my goal is to make $50,000 this year, maybe next year my goal could be to make $60,000.
Okay.
Whatever, and just grow on that. Whatever it might be, whether it's change at your personal growth. I'm going to start doing some different things in my own life, whether it's physical training, whether it's getting in shape, losing weight, whatever it might be. And so if you need to lose 100 pounds, you say, well, I'm going to have this 100 pounds done in 6 weeks. It's probably going to take you a year at least to do 100 pounds.
Yeah.
But set realistic goals for yourself.
Yeah. Okay. That helps a lot. That's why I was digging that out of you, because the goal setting industry has a wide spectrum of weird teaching in there.
Right.
And I like what you're saying. Very practical, very efficient things that need to be on our agenda.
Well, I've always used the acrostic SMAC, SMAC. My goals need to be specific, measurable, achievable, and consistent with who I am.
Wow.
So I just use that SMAC.
It's good. Thank you for that.
So,
Yeah. So as we head towards wrapping up this episode, we're not in a hurry to do that. We're welcome to hear whatever you have to say. I just don't want to eliminate certain things. When you had heard my invite to have you on here, what came to your minds of things that you wanted to talk about that we may have not have touched or even addressed here today that you could bring to our audience?
well, one of my first thoughts was, well, maybe this is another opportunity to talk about goals. As we've talked this morning,
Yeah.
I'm a believer in goal setting, and most people do not have written specific goals, has been my experience. And I love to help people get those thoughts and dreams out of their minds, put them on a dream sheet, take that dream sheet and put it in a goal sheet, and then go to work on those specific goals,
Wow.
whatever they may be. So I thought, well, maybe here's another opportunity to talk about the importance of goal
Good.
setting.
Good. Okay. Anything else that we haven't touched that you would love to share today?
Well, once again, Donovan, thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here, that you would think of me. I know I think you've done this with a number of people, so I'm thrilled to be part of this. Hopefully it will make an impact. There's a person or two out there that maybe some of the things we've talked about will impact. But as I look back on my life, I am a truly blessed man. I have a wonderful wife. We've been married almost 58 years. I have 2 sons. I've got 2 beautiful granddaughters, 2 beautiful daughter-in-laws, and 7 grandchildren. I have all kinds of friends, wonderful clients. My health doesn't mean our life has been free of things that come our way. I call character builders. In fact, we're going through a couple of them right now with our son, and we've got some major health issues with our son and his wife in California. But as I look on it, I am a blessed man, and I'm truly thankful and grateful to God for the life He's allowed me to live.
Love that. We all, as we get older, understand the value of gratitude.
Right.
It's a powerful thing that helps us keep our perspectives right.
Right.
So I appreciate you sharing that.
Okay.
Is there any cool goal that you're messing with right now that you could share with us that's on your horizon?
Well, my wife had a birthday last year that I won't say what it is, that I'm trying to put together my plans got put because of COVID, and I'm trying to put together a special cruise that she's always wanted to in honor of her birthday. So that's one of my goals for this year.
Okay.
Is hopefully everything will settle down and I can help my wife celebrate this birthday.
Oh, fun. Well, that seems very achievable in light of the way things are headed right now. So definitely wish you well on that.
Well, thanks. Thank you.
And a fun time and lots of memories and laughter had by all. So if our viewers would like to get in touch with you or connect with you, how do they go about that? What's your preferred method?
They can contact me either by cell phone or with email, how they want to do it. I'll be responding to either one of those. Yeah.
Okay. And what are those?
My cell phone is it's 575-420-6910, and our email is the letter kwells at cable1one.net.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well. Well, thank you again. Really appreciate you interrupting your week and spending some time with us.
Sure.
And making this one of your goals.
Well, good. Well, thanks again for the invitation.
It's been a pleasure,
Okay.
Marlin.
Thanks, Donovan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's program, subscribe to the format you are on, YouTube or podcast channel, so you get notifications of new releases. If you want to connect with me, go to donovanfulkerson.com for my companies and related business and product offerings. On social media, my personal accounts have daily spiritual and personal life posts. My business accounts relate to those specific products and offerings. If you'd like to be a sponsor, reach out too. We can make that happen. Thank you for connecting. Please share this video and get the word out. We'll see you next time.